As a teenager, my mom was an artist, rather accomplished artist. But she was drawn towards psychology for the help of the children to calm down, to use art as a tool for therapy. In her mid-30s, she married a man who was long, tan, and handsome. She wanted to have children of her own, but when she turned 40, it was almost too late. Brad didn't think it was time yet, but he agreed. Dear Daniel, I hope that you are healthy and happy. I think of you often and understand that you are asking questions about me. There are some things that are hard to understand, but I will try to explain it as best I can. It's not your fault at all that we don't see each other. A large part of the reason is because your mother and I don't get along, like some kids don't get along. That is why your mother and I are not together anymore. It is best that she and I do not see or talk to each other, because there is too much misunderstanding and resentment between us. Before you were born, your mother wanted a child more than anything in the world, and now she must be very happy that she had you. Before she got pregnant, she assured me that she was able to support and wanted to take care of a child by herself. However, I was not ready to have a child because I did not feel secure enough in my own life and circumstances. I was not physically well, did not make enough money to support a child, and could not take care of a child. This still holds true. I hear that you are a great kid and your mother is doing a very good job raising you. I also hear that you are very handsome and smart. Someday when you grow up, the time will be right for us to see each other. Until then, I hope you have a very happy and healthy life. You see, my interpretation of that was that he couldn't take care of a child because he was mentally disabled. He was still pretty much a child himself in his mind. And I could understand that, because that's the way I am. So, I was mad, like my mom says, but I couldn't be mad at Brad. This was my baby diary. My mom kept this book from when I was born to about a year later. It says in the book that she wanted to name me Torin. Torin, meaning the head of the ship, or the masthead. But kind of as you go down the page, the handwriting gets more and more sloppy, which is basically her way of indicating that she's nervous when she's writing. And she was nervous about trying to find a new dad for me, because she knew it was damaging for a child to grow up without a father, although I don't think Brad did. There were two things my mom remembered about me being born. The first one is that she said, "He's alive," because she didn't successfully have a kid before that. The second one was that I had some sort of wisdom to me. I never really understood looking back at this footage. In my first year of life, I actively had two moms. One was my normal mom during the nighttime hours, and the other, when she was working, was Christy, who was a full-time nanny that she hired.
At 102 Rainbow Drive, in case you haven't
When
seen
we
it.
moved to the new house,
Sample of the artist's
she came
work.
with us, but only for a short amount of time.
These were done at various stages of
I
his
missed
career.
her,
This one
but
was
could never remember her
collaboration with his
face.
elderly mother. Oh, here's one of his early finger paintings. This.
My first father figure was my maternal grandfather, who I called Pops. he, every few years or so when we went up to New York, he would take me down into the basement and we would make something. I don't think that we made this costume. We've made things much more intricate. I always thought that that was the way of man and humanity in general, to create, to be able to make something new using what we know and can teach each other. And who could forget my paternal grandfather, Saba? Me and my cousins would play on his large property out in the country of Memphis, Tennessee. However, I felt like I was somehow less, that I was outside.
What'd you pick up there? What is that, Daniel? What do you got there? Is that something you're supposed to have? Wait a second. Okay, it's just...
So, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at around 3 years old, right?
Not really.
No.
I would say 7.
7? Wow.
Well, there were other diagnoses at 3, but nobody quite put their finger on it. They just said pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified.
Yeah, I think that maybe the main part of whatever I was having, which is probably Asperger's syndrome, was that I refused to be normal, to do what everyone else did.
Right.
What did I tell you when I was supposed to get potty trained?
Okay. Well, I got you potty trained a little bit at home when you were 2.5, but then you started a daycare at 2.5, and for some reason you did not want to be potty trained, so you went backwards. And when I said to you, Daniel, all the other kids in your class are moving rapidly towards being potty trained. I probably didn't say moving rapidly because you were 3. But I said they were all getting potty trained, and I would like it if you could get potty trained because it would really help me out a lot and make our lives a lot easier. And you said, Mom, I'm not a robot. I thought it was pretty funny.
That did cause me problems later on, that, not being able to, refusing to get potty trained. There was definitely stuff that happened.
Oh, you mean why you had a diagnosis finally?
No, I mean like I was, when I didn't get potty trained, they would like try to embarrass me in the after school by changing me out in the open, try to get me to get potty trained.
Who? What after school?
I forget. It wasn't an after school. I mean preschool.
Okay, so you're talking about Miss Sarah's class?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. All right, so you mean when I wasn't around, people like humiliated you because you weren't potty trained?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. This
pretty
is
much
the first...
into kindergarten.
Wait, teachers or children?
Teachers.
Do you know them by name?
No,
don't tell me now.
Not anymore.
Cha! Daniel, look, here's your baby. You haven't seen your baby in a while.
Cha, this is your moment. This is your...
Okay, Daniel, want to go say hi to Cha? I got you on the camcorder. Chachka.
Come on.
How I love you, how I love
Come
you,
on.
my dear old Chachka.
Daniel, it's a camcorder moment. Come on.
We moved again closer to the year 2000. And the biggest repercussion of that was that our dog, Chachka, had to leave. He had to be away from us. So we sent him to my
Can you pick him up?
paternal grandmother,
Let's try it.
who was separated
Now, you're
from
almost
my
5.
paternal
Can
grandfather,
you lift Cha? See.
and
Cha weighs more than
she took good care of him.
No, Daniel weighs 40
But
pounds. Daniel
when he
weighs
died,
twice as much.
40 pounds.
when I was about 7,
Oh my goodness. Gee, you are
she was afraid to tell me, and she never
10
told me
pounds for every year.
until just last year.
Oh, you are such a handsome man.
By then, I had experienced the death of a fish, 2 cats,
Hey, Richard.
also several other fish,
How you doing?
and a person. So I had built up an immunity to grief.
Hello. The Daniel's behind you.
We were members of the Kahila Jewish community, and we somewhat acted. However, my desire to deviate from the norm was so strong that when I was told that shalom meant hello, goodbye, peace, I said, what about a language where Bologada means every word? Because that would be about as effective. However, I do remember having fun at the same time.
You did that on purpose.
Alright!
Yay!
Alright, this is it. The last practice before the big show. Governor Pataki's going to be here. I don't want any nonsense. I want to see unison dancing. Every arm, body, head, angle, going in the same direction. We are one.
Behold, my kindergarten class. What to say? Well, the teacher was very strict. And there was also a girl named Danielle in the class. My name being Daniel, she spelled it exactly the same. So I tried to come up with a different way to write my name. I didn't know how to use like my last name and my first name, or maybe I had forgotten. So I just wrote Nad, Dan backwards. It did not work. I got her grades back, and since I was kind of a nerd, and she was kind of the opposite, the teacher got the impression that I was good for nothing.
She's great, huh?
Back up in New York,
Is she great babysitter?
my aunt had a baby, and her name was Esme.
Does she live near you?
I adored that girl. I would shower her with gifts. I would try to give her
From where?
like a taste of the things I was capable of creating. Honestly, I just used her as an excuse to make things because I loved making things, and every year on her birthday she'd get like a box full of weird toys and like Uggins, little like an old cell phone, dioramas.
Does she want a teething thing to eat?
One time there was a trophy
Oh yeah, they are.
that didn't really mean
Does she
anything.
have like a plastic teether that you buy?
Of course, my generation.
sheets on the rack.
And it was also my way of preventing my mom from giving my own toys that I wasn't done with yet to her,
But I'll tell
because,
you, on this
you know,
film,
I'd
the
give them
brown
to
room
her
looks so nice. It
if
looks
I
very
didn't
like
want them.
professional and subdued, you know?
If I made
Like
them,
some kind
I
of
just wanted to show them off.
Like it's funny.
She thought I was cool until, obviously, she grew
This is the little
out
room that
of
used to be our kitchen.
toys designed by a 6-year-old boy who really wanted
Okay, Daniel, move
stuff
out
that
the way
was
so
made
you can
for
fix it.
girls her age by
Oh,
big
Daniel,
companies
wow.
and liked by other girls her age.
Yeah, but not to Esme. That hurt her.
Now, Carver Elementary School is where I got my current sketching style. See, this is the first sketchbook that I ever really made. It's 3rd grade. I don't really consider anything before this my drawings. I consider them doodles of a baby. This would be...
Yay!
Yeah, these are the best. Well, they're the first of the best. The best of it was 6th grade. Learning to draw bottles, surrealist things. Man, this was great.
Let's follow Mr. Jeffrey Badgett, and that is his stepson-to-be Daniel, and that is his mother's dog, and her name is Dottie. Dottie is a very, very wise dog and a very smart dog, and that dog actually makes a bed. Okay,
When we met Jeff,
let's
it was
follow along. So let's
pretty
go.
much the culmination of my mom's
Okay,
dream.
here we are in Lexington.
A house,
We're taking a walk
a
on
nice
shore.
man,
There's
a child.
Mr. Jeff Badgett. Okay, we're just
She would
taking a
have
walk
other
on shore.
dreams, but this is a dream that she still believes in. But I not only had a father figure, I had to realize
he's
that
ready to roll.
other father figures
Daddy's ready.
were not my father figure. I had to say, Pops is not my father figure, Sava is not my father figure, my mentor is not my father figure,
We're
Jeff
visiting the grounds
is my
of
dad
Jeff's
now.
old elementary school. It is now a creek. It used to be.
Now here's something interesting. With Jeff's influence, my drawings became more electrical. Less art, more science. See? This was my first real invention. The solar cube. Really just solar powered cube with a plug in it. That's all it was. But it was what started me off. But something terrible was about to happen. No one tragedy would ever strike me as hard
This is
as my
different than
grandmother's death.
goldfish.
One could
Different
say
than the
she held the
regular.
family together. Or rather, she held my grandfather together, and he held the family together. But without her, it was only a matter of time before he became afraid.
We're a team.
Over the course of several years, my first father figure was reduced to another child. He no longer creates anything. He no longer does anything. He only waits to die. I began to have meltdowns, catastrophic ones, where all I wanted to do was run away. I wanted to get up and walk home, but no one ever let me. It was because they were legally responsible for me. It was because I was a child. Now I hope that I can safely avert disaster and walk away and calm down, because the walk is the calm.
This was my child self, Dip. You know, always excited, telling jokes, all over the place, hyperactively. Now, at the same time, I was beginning to develop an adult self, but it was separate from the child self.
My adult self was reclusive.
And creating, building, science, math. I would say that was genius over there. who's also sort of dipster. I don't know. I sort of dichotomized the moods more than the characters. Genius. Well, I already told you. And then there was like the more primal part of the adult self, the hormones and the stuff. And I called this Jailbird because it was so full of rage that I kept it completely hidden, completely away all the time, except for when I really, really lost it.
The friends that knew this self, I isolated myself from. I didn't see them again. I got all new friends. All of which came out of the disabled community, and I created a monster to represent the rage I was trying to hide.
Laughing with you. I can convince myself of that when someone laughs at me.
Who laughed at you?
Everybody, when I pretend to put my finger in the pencil sharpener, and the pencil sharpener like, and I go.
That's not funny. What, Mr. Shrite's class? Is that what you do there? He said sometimes you goof off there. Do you do that? They laugh at you? That's disgusting.
Oh yeah.
Did you make that up or one of the other kids?
And yesterday morning, when I was playing with my pants.
What?
I took my gym shorts, and I made them fight.
In the locker room, I hope.
No, it wasn't the risers in the morning.
Oh, honey.
And they were fighting, and everybody was getting creeped out. And then I dropped my gym shirt
not left.
by the side of the risers, and everybody laughed because I dropped my gym shirt off the side of the
So do people tease you when you act like that, or do they want to be your friend?
They tease me.
Why do you do it? Don't you want them to admire you for your funniness?
You can laugh at me.
Why?
Because I do.
Why don't you do a comedy act for a talent show or something? Hey, you want to do a comedy?
Because when I think that people like me, I get too goofy.
What do you mean? Typical Daniel Parks. He is in 7th grade, almost 13 years old, believe it or not. I got him up on time. I asked what he wanted for breakfast. I asked if he wanted French toast. He said yes. I made him, like, really delicious French toast. Then he wanted a second helping, so I made him 2 more pieces. So he had 5 pieces, 5 halves. And he was very happy. Everything's fine. And then I said, go brush your teeth. He said, no, and threw a fit. And roll him.
But, like a white night came the homework schedule. I began to come up with my own systems of dealing with homework and dealing with the word that I wasn't willing to hear. A system of calendars made 3 months at a time for the seasons, Halloween to my birthday, and the seasons of the school year. So let's say a project was due Wednesday. I would do it one day before on Tuesday, and it's a 2-page paper, so it takes 2 hours. I have 2 hour-long periods that I know I can work in, and I put it down for those hours.
I promised myself that I would design and learn to drive an alternate vehicle before I learned to drive a car. And I did design it, I never built it. I eventually built something, which counted, but it didn't really work.
In the meantime, I was a cartographer, biking all over town and mapping out its features. Those were fun times, and I learned a lot.
In between 12 and 16, I began to create another
I
self.
drew my blueprints just to
The
release
pilot
attention.
self, the main self, the
It burns so hot
combined
that I
self.
don't even need
And
to
I called this
mention.
self
I never built my
Leonad.
internal combustion
It's backward.
engine.
It's forwards because
I'm sitting here looking up at the lighthouse
video's a mirror
tower. Rowing my
I began
boat on
making
pure
all sorts of sketchbooks as
willpower.
Leonardo.
But I know
And you
that
know why I
once
did
I
that is
build
because
my
I was very inspired by
invention,
Leonardo da Vinci
I'll be as fast as an
as,
internal combustion
an inventor and artist, and I wanted to do
I got
that.
myself an And my mom did not want to send me to the big high school because it was so big and I needed a small learning environment. We found the perfect one. I gained many friends there. I'm not sure if most of the relationships were exactly even. There were a few people that I followed, a few people who followed me. Sort of like Twitter, except I couldn't say I was actually following them. I was more in classes with them and listening to the weird stuff that they said, and there were people listening to the weird stuff that I said.
Mom, what's this?
What is this? This looks like a timeline.
It is, well, not the whole thing, I mean.
This is a notebook.
Yes. It is my 10th grade sketchbook because I didn't put my sketches in a sketchbook then. I sort of got off that in middle school. 10th grade is when I started collecting all of, like, inventions and, well, when I started trying to keep track of all of them. Trying to keep, like, a whole store of inventions and everything, but mostly inventions. And the reason that I wanted to keep these inventions, let's see if there was, well, there should be a whole section in here
It's
about...
a miracle that you did well in school with that messy notebook full of inventions.
Well, it was supposed to be my civics notebook, but we didn't have any work we had to keep in civics.
Okay. Well, anyway, you accomplished two things. You did great in high school, and you also made a lot of inventions.
Yes, this is too high. So, what I wanted to keep these inventions for was to make them as pretty much as soon as I could take all the money that I had stored in my money box, put it in the bank, and then use it to, like, buy materials for prototypes and stuff.
Right.
I was going to do that, like, as soon as I turned 18.
Right. Well, a lot of times at 15, you don't have a clear idea of what things cost.
Well, I thought that until 18, and then I realized, I'm not doing this right now. This is a lot of money.
Right. We have to learn slowly as we go along by asking questions to people that have done these things before.
Yeah. Okay, that's... How about this in here?
What is this? Oh,
Says-
okay, this looks like...
Well, what does it say?
It says the universal fabricator consists of two parts, the fusion care and the atomic fabricator. This looks like it's something about the 3D printer that you're...
Yes, because I was thinking that I was going to invent this printer, sell it to people, and then use it to distribute the rest of my inventions. And that I would never have to deal with, like, bureaucracies after that.
Okay.
That
I
was
guess that's a productive fantasy.
that was essentially the whole thing. You can
Okay.
see it.
Okay. So
This is an outdated
so
design
this was,
which wouldn't work, so you can totally see it. It's not hidden.
all right. So this was maybe, one of the initial attempts at describing what you wanted to invent in terms of the
Yes.
atomic,
Stardust.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't say the name in case you invent it.
Yeah. And what about this? Is this
Well,
a productive...
that is a good drawing. Shows very good understanding of the proportions of the female body.
Well, it wasn't... that's not
I guess
mainly
it's some
it.
kind of invention, but I don't know
It's
offhand.
Anlia. It's Anlia, which...
Is it all women who live there?
No. They're men.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are even men in this
So
picture.
it's like a land, a planet.
Yeah, it's a seastead, or it's a system of seasteads
Okay.
that all follow one constitution in order to ensure that nobody gets trapped within one.
Okay.
And I essentially adapted this from the Beluga concept, which was a concept I had much earlier. And the idea of the Belugada concept was to make a world, was to make up like a made-up country where everything was different and everything was my designs.
Yeah, that's cool, and you've expanded that multiple times as you grew up.
So is this harmful in any way?
Psychologically?
Yeah.
Only if you don't focus energy on the real world a good part of the day, so that you get your work done, you know, interact with people and learn reality.
Right.
Your fantasies are fine. There's no problem with having fantasies, but you can't assume they're real, and you can't get mad that they're not happening.
Right. Well, I've actually been thinking about constructing this and planning it as if it's a real thing for the future. But the thing that I should be doing, or what I think I should be doing, is just making it to show to people. Just
Only
to
to
show
those
to people.
who you're reasonably confident will appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because when you show things to people that don't have the mindset to appreciate your, you know, inner workings of your mind, then you're going to get hurt. You know, you're going to be emotionally hurt by their responses. So you show it to people that enjoy creativity and imagination and innovation. And you don't show it to other people.
The world is what you make of it. Other than that, it's only atoms. Wonder what happens if I stop listening to the music in my head and the things I've made up.